views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mission BX. Mission BX is a show that's a collaboration between the Center for Bronx Nonprofits at Hostos Community College and BronxNet. Mission BX is dedicated to looking at the work of Bronx nonprofits and showing it to all of you. First, let me say I hope everyone is healthy, stay safe, and I hope you enjoy the show. Mission BX will begin right now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mission BX, a collaboration between the Center for Bronx Nonprofits at Hostos Community College and BronxNet. First thing I want to say to everyone is that I hope you and your family are all well in this very, very difficult time, and sending lots of goodwill out to everybody in the Bronx and everybody who watches. And I'm so happy to be back, even though we're back in a different way. We have Jill Roche-Gomez from Hunts Point Alliance for Children and Katherine Martinez from Shopp NYC. You might remember Jill with the absolutely adorable children in one of her children's shows, and Katherine with the fabulous senior disco dancers. So and you can go and find those shows on Mission BX. So the first thing that I'd like both of you to do, and we can go alphabetically, Katherine, and start with you, is to just give a little reminder of what your organization actually does.
Thank you, Eileen, for having me on today. We're working remotely from our homes, but we're still serving our community. Again, my name is Katherine Martinez. I am the president and CEO of Neighborhood Shopp, Neighborhood Self-Help by Older Persons Project. So we just call ourselves Shopp. We've been around for 40 years, offering an array of services to seniors. Senior centers, we've got New York Connects that connects older adults and those with disabilities to any types of service. We are the call center for the Bronx. We have our case management for homebound elderly. That includes a friendly visiting volunteer program. We also have our elder abuse and crime victims programs to assist those elderly people who may be in a vulnerable situation. We have our NORC program, which is an 8-building development, a program located within an 8-building development in the Bronx, known as Lafayette Estates. We also have SNAP and group work that really provides services to individuals, seniors, to keep them engaged, ensuring that they are connected to services. Whether it's, I have paperwork and I don't understand it, or I want to join a class, I want to, do an exercise, or I want to do a sewing class, but it's to keep them active and engaged, right? And our Caregivers Program, which is a very important program because we have so many family members who are stepping in to take care of their older adult loved one. So we've now transitioned to a remote organization, but these are the services that we offer.
Great. And Jill, it's interesting. I was just thinking that the two of you have multiple programs that you're managing. I think that's another thing you both have in common. So Jill, can you tell us about your programs?
Well, the Hunts Point Alliance for Children at its heart is, its goal is to cultivate a community that believes in the power and the possibility of the children of Hunts Point. So all of our programs are really based around creating hope for a future and building pathways to meaningful careers. And we do that through fostering curiosity, social emotional connections, and academic success that leads to college choices. So at the Hunts Point Alliance for Children, we recognize that this is not just a path that the children walk, but that it's an entire community and it involves every member of their family. And so what does that mean in terms of the multiple programming that we offer? We have 4 buckets of programs. So we have our early childhood team that works with children from 0 to 8, both in our early childhood space on Hunts Point Avenue, where we have a children's library. We have Mommy and Me classes that are focused around executive functioning that we call family school skills. And then we do after school programming at the 2 local schools, Hyde Leadership Charter School and PS 48, for kindergarten students that have been identified by the school as at risk. And then we have our community to career pipeline programming, which is working with 4th graders all the way through college students and college graduation. And that's a series of programs that focus on career exposure through building social emotional skills and literacy. And then we have a family project, which is case management and support for all the families that are enrolled in our programming. And together, those 3 teams really work to create that path forward to college and careers. And then the other thing that we focus on is this idea of building a community. And so we have a community partnership funded through the Administration for Children's Services. And this builds on the many years of partnership that we've had with the schools and the other child-focused community-based organizations in Hunts Point.
These were wonderful programs, are wonderful programs. And then the virus hit. So what's been the impact? And either one of you, both of you, on what you've been able to do?
Well, we had to transition immediately into a remote organization. And I have to commend the staff that within 1 week, we were able to set up 100 staff members to work remotely and continue to provide the vital services that we need to provide to our seniors who are now asked to isolate themselves, right? And so ensuring that we are able to deliver the deliverables mandated by our contracts, but also to ensure their wellness, their safety, in receiving whatever supports that they need while they're now at home, whether it's medication, whether it's food. Food insecurity is a big issue. Making sure they have their doctor's information, or whether they need to be connected to a home care agency because their home care is not in place. These are all the critical questions that we need to ask, making sure that our seniors are safe. And then also, if they need to go to the grocery store, well, how are they going to get there, right? Can they get there? Or can they access a local grab and go? All these questions we need to ask only because we're not sure. They're the most vulnerable population, first, right? So it's our responsibility to make sure that we're able to continue to provide them with the services that is offered by each of our contracts, but also to ensure their safety as they're now asked to shelter in place.
Right. Jill, what about you?
Yeah.
What happened?
We have really been thinking about what is at the core of our mission and the work, and then what are the strategies and tactics that we need to make sure continue, and which are the things that we need to pivot because of the fact that we're all working remotely, and that our children and families that we work with every day are also at home. And so we've decided really that our 2 focus areas are the importance of building social capital and how you can continue stability and routine for children in a very uncertain place, very uncertain world. So in terms of the importance of building social capital, one of the things that we did immediately our first week was we asked all of our program teams across all age groups to reach out to families just to see how they were doing, what were their pain points, what were they concerned about, so that we could start gaining some information to see how we could support them more broadly. And I think one of the conversations that we had that first Friday was with one of our program managers. She was a little concerned because she had only gotten through a little less than half of her list of families. And so she was apologizing. And we said, well, why? And she said, because I'm spending 20 to 40 minutes on the phone with everyone I call. And so it was a real eye opener to us that how important these calls were, and said, that's great. We're glad you're doing it. That's absolutely the right instinct. But we were finding that people were craving connection during this time. And so to have the call from the person that they knew as a teacher was really reassuring, and sharing with what was happening with their families and their struggles with getting onto remote learning. And so that's one of the things that we've continued to do. And as Katherine said as well, these wellness checks, this importance of connectivity. The second thing is in terms of a stability of routine and connection, that we've moved all of our after school programming and our early childhood programming online in some capacity. So that's been really exciting to see the creativity that's emerged out of that. One of our first programs, our flagship program is the Hunts Point Children's Shakespeare Ensemble, which we do in partnership with the Public Theater downtown. And we were able collaboratively to have that online immediately. And so about 40 kids are calling in still 3 times a week in the same time periods that we would have met with them anyway. So 3:30 to 5:30 on Tuesdays and Fridays and 4 hours on Saturday. And that was really important that we kept the time, we felt, as well. And so all the teaching artists are meeting with them. They break out into breakout rooms and they do, line bashing and movement and, voice practicing. And it's just really incredible to see the way that they've been able to translate online through the computer and to maintain that connectivity.
Yeah, it's amazing because especially young people are very used to this. It doesn't take them half an hour to figure out how to get online.
Right.
It's interesting because we're now in this situation where we're now sort of working virtually with our seniors. So teaching them, they're not very tech savvy, right? Many of them, some of them are, which we're happy about. We're happy about that, but we have some who are not tech savvy. And so what our focus has been is finding out, well, who has a tablet or who has some sort of a smartphone where they can engage in some virtual classes. And we started to create some virtual classes. Like right now we're making some face masks and we're, just have like a chat with a few, but we're now trying to really do an assessment with how many have Wi-Fi, right? That are able to log in if we were to get them the tools that they need, So we're currently seeking funding to support them in getting them tablets. But we need to really understand, are they equipped with the technology that they need at home? Whether the Wi-Fi does exist. And they're also even grateful, as Jill said, for that phone call. That phone call is crucial. Social isolation and loneliness is so huge amongst an older adult. And being able to connect with the people that they are normally connected to at the centers, their second home is so rewarding. And so when they are being reached out, I mean, for the month of March, and we closed March 16th. For the month of March, we made over 4,000 phone calls within those 2 weeks. Just assessing, making sure that everyone was okay. And they appreciated those phone calls. That meant so much to them. And then being able to provide them with, if we had to call DoorDash and get them a meal or, or set them up with an ongoing delivery of a meal, or making sure that their pharmacy, their medication was done, just having that second person to help them process this new normal through. I think they were so appreciative of that because our goal is, our mission is to help them help themselves, right? So they're not only helping, each other as seniors, but they're helping, within their own communities. And with them having to now be sheltered in place and in their home, it's really going backwards from what we're normally telling them to be engaged and come out and join the sense, participate in the dance club, then participate in the acting club, it's now, let's do this at home. We can do this from your phone. We can do this from a computer.
And I remember in both cases, I remember going to visit one of your centers on disco afternoon, Friday disco afternoon, and people said, "This is my second home. This is where I go. And Jill, I remember talking to the mothers with the Adorable Children program that you have, and how it wasn't just what it meant to the kids, but what it meant to the mothers who had found each other, who could share ideas, and the sort of the social interactions that were going on that were so important. So I think that in both cases, your organizations are serving such an important role in doing that. So I credit both of you for being able to really figure out a way to keep those relationships going, because it's not just the information that people get, it's the connected piece that means so much. So We have to take a little break, and then we'll be back. And then I want to talk a little bit about technology, and also I want to talk about what's next after we are out of our houses at some point. So thanks. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with, again, Jill Roche-Gomez from Hunts Point Alliance for Children and Katherine Martinez from Shopp, which I never knew what all those letters stood for. And so make sure you watch the whole show so you'll know too. So we had left off talking about how you've managed to keep these programs going in some form. So one of the things that occurs to me through all of this, because at Hostos Community College, we're giving out laptops to our students, many of whom don't have them. And there's been a huge conversation for years about the digital divide. I'm not always sure where the conversations takes place, but it certainly is there. And a lot of our political leaders in the Bronx have been much concerned about this. So I'm wondering if, especially Katherine, what you were saying about the seniors, whether you think that this could potentially lead to some movement for equality around this issue of digital access.
Absolutely. It's hard when you are dealing with a group that may not, there's two folds, right? You may not have access because financially you can't afford it, right? Or maybe you may not be savvy and would rather not look at a computer and not even touch a computer, right? And so we've always, in each of our programs, we've always encouraged technology. That's part of the curriculums that we offer. So we're grateful that we've been able to always do that. However, we were always mindful of the fact that there are many who will not adapt to that. And so offering them services via telephone is also good enough. And so our staff understands that, and it was great, actually. De Blasio, actually, our mayor, mentioned that today in one of his press conferences, where, you have to be available to those seniors who will only call.
Right.
They're not going to go online and they're not going to register for something through a portal online. They will call. And as an organization in the city, we have to be responsive to those seniors who will only make those phone calls. And I think that we are okay with that. And our team is okay with that. We've done telephone support groups. We've done chats where, our seniors can chat with their next peer. We put them together so that they can have a conference sort of, call together. Anything that we can do to allow that senior to engage with a peer, we will definitely take forward on that.
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. And what you're working with young people. So these are the people who will need technology for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. And I think when I think about the digital divide, there's also groups that we realized that we had to meet them where they were at. So with our 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders, they were able to either have a laptop at home, have a device at home, and to be able to somewhat seamlessly start to work both with us and with the Department of Education. I think that what we saw with families with younger children, we actually, before we could launch our online programming, we spent 2 weeks doing Zoom practice classes. And that actually hit 2 goals. It started the connectivity, right? It was something that we could all acknowledge. I mean, every single one of us is a learner at this time. every day we learn something. The second thing is that I think the digital divide runs deeper than just the idea of access or not access, but what is the quality of the access and how much access? So
Right.
one of the things that we heard a lot from families was, they had a computer at home, but they had 4 children, and all 4 children were supposed to be on at the same time. So, 2 kids were taking turns on the computer, and then the other 2 were using their parents' cell phones. And then what was that going to look like in terms of data? There was a lot of anxiety. We actually, in our classroom, we had 30 Chromebooks that when we left the office were locked in the office. And so after about 2 weeks, we said, well, this is just ridiculous. So I went to the office and we gave out all 30. And I'm really excited that we just found out we got some additional funding that we're going to be buying another 50 to 60 Chromebooks to give out in the next week.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a huge piece. And I think everybody's been trying to figure out how they can get students to have access. And I think that's a good point about having 4 kids in the family. It's not just a matter of, well, now you've got one. And I actually was talking to somebody who is going to graduate school, working full-time from home, and has children. She said she gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and does her schoolwork for her master's from 3 to 6 so that her kids can use the computer the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So people are really having a tough time trying to figure all of this out. So let's move forward to when we don't know, and things open up. I don't mean the whole world opens up and changes, but minimally you go back to work, you're in the office, some of the programs can start up. What are the biggest challenges you see if you think towards that time period?
I was thinking about this question. I've been thinking about this for quite some time because I don't know what that new normal is going to look like. However, because we're working with a population that has been the primary concern, right? That age group, right?
Right.
I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm thinking about our congregate meals. We offer meals. We have over sometimes 100 seniors in a dining room coming to have a fresh hot meal. Is that going to be are we going to be able to go back to that? I don't know. Or are we going to be able to have 100 people at the same time?
Right.
There's
going to be 20 because that's what you're allowed to have.
Exactly.
And lunch starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, the way big schools do it.
Exactly. So then expanding our hours for lunch meals instead of for an hour lunch, it might be a 2-hour lunch, so that we can accommodate this new normal that we're going to have to start thinking about. And in addition to some of the classes, and this might be the same for Jill, but just in terms of classrooms, what are depending on the size of the room, what's the capacity in terms of the room? So those are a lot of things that I've been thinking about. I'm sort of afraid to even think that far because I'm trying to close out this fiscal year and figuring out what are we doing now and being, making sure that we are being impactful and really reaching the people that we need to reach. But it is something that has been coming across my mind because I'm wondering, even as a staff, right? We're all working together. And so I think those are policies that are going to come from above, in terms of our leaders in the city, in terms of directing us on where to go and how to process and how to move forward. But there are concerns because I don't think we will be operating the same.
I've been thinking a lot about summer for our high school and college students and about early childhood and the gains that we've made in investment as a city and a country in early childhood and how to maintain that. So for summer, I think I'm particularly concerned. One of the things that the Hunts Point Alliance for Children has done for years and that we are particularly proud of is that we've helped high school students find really meaningful experiences where they get to have summers that they can leave the city, they can engage in college campuses, they do writing programs, really interesting internships. And so slowly over the last 10 days, our high school manager has been hearing that those programs are canceled. And so I think about how are we going to set our high school students and our college students up for meaningful summer work that is going to prepare them for either college admission or longer term exciting careers. And one of the reasons that I'm particularly nervous about that is because every 18-year-old across the entire city is having the same issue. So when it comes to June, how do we make sure that high schoolers in vulnerable communities still have access to the few internships that'll be available and the few experiences that will be open? And then in terms of early childhood, I think that enrollment has always been low in Community District 2 in Hunts Point. And over the last 3 to 5 years, we've really started to see that increase. And that's, due to both the work that has been done in the community around the importance of early childhood, as well as the increased investment from the city. So I wonder how we maintain that level of engagement and investment in early childhood to make sure that 15 years from now or 20 years from now, we're not seeing academic losses because of the investment choices that we made now.
Yeah. And I think you both, because you have fairly good sized staff, there's the whole, and this is some of the things that we're talking about, trying to put together workshops or just opportunities for people to talk to each other. Because I think one of the things is we're all going to be dealing with people who've had losses. And I said maybe to one or both of you that I don't think it's just a matter of we all go back to work and everybody takes out their list of the things that they couldn't get done remotely and says, okay, today I'll do 1 through 5. It's not, that's not going to be the same as business as usual. And I think that's one of the things that this city is, and the Bronx particularly, is going to need a big healing effort too.
The other piece, is when you talk about staff is, dealing with loss, right? Because there's so many clients that we've been impacted by all of this. And so, and there's no time for bereavement. There's no time for grieving. There's no time for, dealing with what's actually happening in front of you. And so there will be a need to ensure wellness, even for staff,
Oh, absolutely.
and for the clients that we're serving, because these are their peers. These are their friends that they lost, and so it's going to be vital that part of whatever we do moving forward, even from now, that we offer some wellness, and self-care.
Right. One of the things that we learned with the holiday last week is that when we got to Wednesday, everyone was so exhausted and so relieved to have a few days off for the long holiday weekend. And so we've decided that starting next week, we're actually going to take half day on Wednesdays. Just because to get through 5 days right now with all of the things that we have, I think we're learning and recognizing, and we want to honor that our staff have to show up in their personal lives as well. And with all of the difficulties and the grief that having a little space to do the things that they need to do is important.
That seems to be a conversation that's coming up. I had a conversation with somebody the other day who said, I just think we need 4-day weeks, because she said every time I talk to somebody on Friday, they're fried. So that's perfect, because we're running out of time, but that's a perfect segue into my thinking. The one thing you two didn't mention is how you need to take care of yourselves. And that's typical ED behavior. So, thank you everybody for joining us and for joining Katherine and Jill for this wonderful conversation, and to just meet these wonderful people doing work in the Bronx to make life better. If you missed part of this, or you want to see it again, or you want to show it to your friends, go to bronxnet.tv and look for Mission BX, and you will find this online very soon. And join us again. We're going to be doing these shows for as long as it takes before we can get back inside the nonprofits in person. So thanks so much for being with us.